Hi, this is Aylaveen and today is patch day for the highly anticipated 7.2 update. Right now it's still under maintenance and it's gonna be a while till the game is back up, but right now they have updated the patch notes for us to look at. Mainly it's about the job rebalance. I've skimmed through it for a bit and I've seen snippets of people's complaints on Twitter, but I really want to dive deep into it and talk about it from my perspective. So yeah, let's get started. So first off, we have Paladin. So total eclipse potency has been increased. Okay, this is AoE skills. This is great. Holy Circle, Divine Might potency increase. Yeah, it's mostly all of these are AoE skills. They updated the potency, but the drop off for multiple targets decreased. And Warrior. Yeah, it's pretty much the same, but well, actually Warrior got a bit buff. Unlike Paladin, it's all AoE skills that they buff. Warrior actually got single target buffs, which is pretty great. Warrior has been on a slump for a while. Gunbreaker and Dark Knight is definitely the winner for the past few patches. So this is great change for Warrior. Dark Knight, reduction in potency. Dark Knight actually got a full-on nerf. It's not much, but this is all high damaging AoE skills. Shadowbringer and this is team, it's their primary burst. Even though it's not a single target reduction, it still sucks. Gunbreaker, wait, what? Dude, Gunbreaker has been strong for a while. Gunbreaker was the top damaging tank in FRU and also in Savage, if I remember correctly. Yeah, Gunbreaker definitely is on top. They're together with Paladin because of P4 in FRU. If we take a look at Savage, yeah, Dark Knight starts very slow because it scales better with peasant slots. But Gunbreaker definitely has been one of the strongest tank for the past few patches, so I'm not sure what they're talking about. And why do Gunbreaker got a buff? I'm pretty sure they didn't nerf Gunbreaker's AoE damaging skills because the reduction after the first target for Gunbreaker has been pretty low compared to the other ones. Yeah, Gunbreaker 60% less for other enemies. Reduction of the... Wait, this is actually a buff. Wait, I read it wrong. Reduction in potency... Oh, okay, Paladin is nerfed, but Warrior is a buff. Wait, why? Is this because of FRU? Why do they do this after FRU? People's not gonna care a lot because FRU's already done. Yeah, Paladin was really strong in FRU because of Confiteor combo hitting multiple targets is just ridiculously high. But I don't see why it is necessary for the brand new Savage. Is there gonna be multiple targets? We really don't know. Anyways, Gunbreaker doesn't make any sense for me. It has been the strongest tank for a while, and they're doing this is just gonna break Gunbreaker. Right now, I don't think there will be any world racing team who's not picking up Gunbreaker. It's just ridiculous. They really have to bring Gunbreaker right now. It has been the strongest tank, and they even buffed it. So it just doesn't make sense for me. So we're moving on to Monk. Okay, so basically their blitz are all buffed. Yeah, pretty much. It's just reduction in potency after the first target, so it hits harder for multiple targets. But why would they nerf alignment? It's already been weak and people don't use it really often, so I'm not sure why. But they do buff Wind's Reply and Fire Supply, so it's pretty good. But I don't think Monk has ever been in a state where it actually needs a lot of changes, so I don't think it's a big deal for them getting buffed or nerfed. Moving on to Dragoon. Drake's Bane is buffed, Stardiver is buffed, Heaven's Trust is buffed. It's an overall buff. I'm not sure, Dragoon has always been good. If I remember correctly, it's one of the strongest melee in FRE2. So I'm not sure where they calculate this and why do Dragoon needs a buff. Probably their uptime situation. Yeah, it's pretty strong. I know they want to buff a lot of melees to compete with Picto. Yeah, I think it's fine. Dragoon and Monk is two of the highest damaging melee, and they're getting a buff. So, I'm not sure. Hopefully the rest of the melee is also getting a buff. Ninja, okay, this is a buff for Aurelian Age. Hakemuji Natsu combo potency has been reduced. Not a big deal. Armor Crush is getting a buff. Dokumori potency is no longer reduced after the first enemy. This is actually pretty great, but it's not a big deal. We're only fighting one boss in Savage. Again, I don't really care about the AoE damaging skills unless they actually made ads during Savage, which is possible. The Trade Melee Mastery 3 will now increase potency. Okay, this is pretty good. Well, it's an overall buff for Ninja, but it's very subtle. Not a big deal. Samurai, this is the one that I've been hoping they really buff. Cause right now, Samurai has been in a slump for quite a while since Dawn Trail. The sad part is that I actually enjoyed the current Samurai gameplay, but because of the damage output, it really puts me off. Q10 reduced. I don't really care about Q10. Guren. Yeah, okay. Okay, this is a buff for AoE. They're basically making Shoha stronger, but it's not a big deal. Ogi. Okay, Ogi gets a buff. It's pretty good, 100 potency. This is basically a buff for Ogi. Kaishi Namikiri also gets a buff, of course. It's the same thing, just its follow-up. Zanshin gets 40 potency buff. Tendo gets 80 potency, and Tendo Setsuge, okay. I think this is pretty good because they buff Samurai overall, but I'm not sure whether it's enough or not. But honestly, I think this too is the most important thing, because right now it's heavily reliant on the Tendo Setsugeka. We're gonna have to wait and see, but I think Samurai should be back at least on top 3. But I'm not sure, I could be wrong, so don't quote me on this. Yeah, it's pretty great that they buffed Tendo. Moving on to Reaper. Void Reaping, okay, Cross Reaping. This is the combo burst under Enshroud. Reduction in potency, okay, this is basically a buff on AoEs again. I don't know why they're doing this. If they're doing this to all of the jobs, there could potentially be something on the Savage. It could be multiple targets, I'm not sure. Because it's kind of weird that they're doing this to all of the jobs. They buff all the AoEs while reducing the potency, but some of the jobs got buffed actually, so not sure why they're rebalancing the AoEs. I really hope they really test this one out, It's a buff on the 2 minutes, but they actually nerf the basic skills a bit. So yeah, we'll have to see. Reaper. Viper. Why are they buffing Viper? Viper is already very strong on full uptime situation. They are calculating the buffs and nerfs based on FRU, but they have to remember that FRU got a lot of downtimes, and now it's Savage. They should have a lot of uptimes. Viper is strong. They don't really need to buff it anymore. It is just the job is not designed for downtimes, and that's fine. Why would they buff Viper? It's just weird. This is the same situation with Gunbreaker. I really don't think this is necessary, and it really just makes Viper even stronger. Because you actually can see Viper's damage output in Chaotic. Wait, let me pull it up. So if you really want to take a look on how Savage is going to be, you gotta see the full uptime situation. Like, Ninja, of course, is being Ninja because of their buffs on 24 people, but Viper has been on the top of DPS chart for Chaotic, so I don't think they really need a buff. Yeah, I don't really agree with this buff, but they really need to pay attention on how they're buffing and nerfing classes, not just based on the previous encounter, but also the upcoming encounter. Okay, we're moving on to Bard. Reduction in potency after... Okay, this actually nerf. Pitch perfect. Potency has been increased. This is actually nerf on their 2-minute AoE damaging, but Shadow Bite and Laden's Bite, I don't really care. It's not really much because both of these are AoE skills. Machinist. Spread Shot, Ricochet, Scattergun, Chainsaw. This is basically AoE skills. You don't really care about it. But Machinist getting nothing is really weird because they have been in a slump for quite a while. So this is just sad for Machinist. I think they really need a potency buff, especially because they're a selfish physical range DPS. It just doesn't make any sense that Dancer and Bard getting buffed, but not Machinist. At this point, I'm not even sure there's actually someone in Square Enix that actually plays Machinist. Next up is Dancer. Dancer is getting a buff. Reduction in potency changes. Okay, this is basically a buff on AoEs. This is also AoE. This is also AoE. Everything is AoE. Some of it got nerfed, but some of it got buffed. Now on to the ones that everyone's been talking about, Black Mage. So I don't really understand Black Mage, so I'm just not gonna pretend that I really understand Black Mage. But from what I heard, this is actually overall a buff. Like Xenoglossy, okay. Overall, it's actually a buff on Black Mage, but the ones that people are upset about is not actually the buff or the nerf. It's actually the gameplay, because they removed the Enochian timer and basically reducing the skill floor for Black Mage. Summoner. Okay, Summoner gets... well, Summoner gets a buff at least, but I honestly think rather than you try to tweak a lot of Black Mage, try tweaking Summoner. It's just very boring to play. I know it's kind of nice to have a job that new players can start and feel good about, but right now the gameplay is just way too boring. Rat Mage. Okay, Rat Mage gets a buff. That's nice. Here's Picto. Wait, it's actually exactly what I predicted. Okay, so there's a lot of things that they changes, but it's basically just two things. They basically changed the full uptime damaging skills. This one's the palette skills. They actually buffed it, so Picto in full uptime will be stronger, but they nerf all of their Muse skills. And this is actually kind of weird because they need this change in FRU, not for Savage. Because Savage is a full uptime situation where Picto actually doesn't thrive as much. This is a nerf on Picto in FRU, but not a nerf on Picto in Savage. Because right now, they are stronger in full uptime situation with the palette skills being upgraded. Yeah, it's basically all buffs on the palette skills. It's all nerfs on the Muse skills, but I'm not sure. We will have to wait and see how Picto fares in Savage. But right now, looking at this, I'm pretty sure they're doing this rebalance really based on FRU, which is not the best thing to do. Healers, well, they barely change healers. They just buff the DOTs. Yeah, there's no meaningful changes for the healers. So that's about it for the whole rebalance. Okay, so my takeaway is this. The main takeaway for me in tanks are I don't understand why they buff Gunbreaker, because Gunbreaker has been the strongest tank for quite a while, and them buffing this makes absolutely no sense for not bringing Gunbreaker right now. I'm happy with the warrior buff. I think they need it, but I think in a full uptime situation and a single target situation, Paladin needs a buff. They don't buff Paladin just because it performs really well in FRU, which is weird. But yeah, I think they will need to buff Paladin and not Gunbreaker. Gunbreaker is going to be broken. Melees overall got a buff, which is great. They need to perform better and outperform the likes of Picto and Black Mages. Because this is kind of tricky with the potency changes, we really have to wait and see how it performs in Savage. All of the buffs are fine for melees, but Viper. Because I don't think Viper really needs a buff in a full uptime situation. In Physical Rage, I think Machinist is absolutely ridiculous that Machinist gets no buff whatsoever, because Machinist has been useless for quite some time. And then for casters, they get, of course, Black Mage. I don't really get it, but Summoner and Red Mage getting buffs is nice. But Picto is the one that interests me the most, because it's exactly as I predicted, but this is actually a change for Picto in FRU. We don't really know how it performs in Savage. They might be still very strong, but I'm not sure. We'll have to wait and see. Because they overall buffed the full uptime Picto and nerfed the downtime Picto, which is weird because Savage is mostly full uptime. Healers got no buffs whatsoever. That's it. So yeah, that's about it. I hope you get something from this video. What do you think of the buffs and nerfs that we get? Leave a comment down below and we'll discuss about it. I'll see you in the 7.2 update. Bye.